Sensation, the payback has begun. Ukraine's strikes has back at the heart of Russia. Following today's brutal and cruel ballistic attack on Kyiv, the Kremlin is already crying. Ukrainian long-range drone fleets launched a massive retaliation wave, but if the Kremlin thought they could target our cultural heritage without immediate burning consequences, they just hit a brick wall. Ukraine's response was brutal. Our long-range strike weapons flew straight into the heart of Russia's military-industrial complex. Massive, unstoppable explosions have completely rocked the city, turning key defense factories into giant hell. And down south, the strategic Chongar transit corridor has been slapped into a total mechanical lockdown. The scale is absolutely crazy. This is just the first hour of our revenge. Let's talk about it. Hello, this is Ukraine Today. I'm Tatiana Bogomas. Barricading against barbarism, Russia unleashes over 70 missiles and 600 drones in a massive coordinated onslaught aimed directly into the heart of Kyiv. But if Putin's generals thought they could bomb our capital without a devastating immediate response, they just made the final mistake of their lives. Ukraine's payback was ruthless and terrifying precise. An operational retribution has already been activated. Ukrainian long-range strike drones simultaneously penetrate Russia's elite air defense perimeters in Tula and the Moscow region. Ukrainian long-range drone armada bypass Russia's premier electronic warfare systems to strike critical production facilities. If the Russian leadership thought their factories were safe behind their trillion-ruble propaganda air defenses, they just hit a brutal dead end. Ukraine's revenge didn't take days of planning. It was executed simultaneously. While Kyiv was still cleaning up the rubble, our unmanned systems forces launched a massive, coordinated long-range drone armada that flew straight into the heart of Russia's military elite. The first massive explosion erupted in Tula, the historical manufacturing heart of the Russian army. Multiple heavy strike drones slammed directly into core defense enterprises, triggering spectacular secondary explosions that lit up the midnight sky for miles. The first massive target was the city of Tula, a massive powerhouse for the Russian military-industrial complex. Multiple heavy strike drones slammed directly into local weapon manufacturing enterprises, triggering massive explosions that could be heard across the entire region. But real shockwave hit right on the doorstep of the Kremlin. In the sub-Moscow city of Reutov, residents counted at least 4 massive direct arrivals, paralyzing the theater of this war. Coordinated deep strikes simultaneously closed down the 1,000 transit corridors on the administrative border of Crimea, and the pressure is only accelerating. Down south, our forces completed the trifecta by launching a devastating precision strike on the Chongar transit corridor. The local occupation authorities were forced to completely block all the traffic and shut down the entrance to Crimea as the infrastructure suffered severe damage. Putin's southern army is now completely choked off from their primary logistics line, right when they are desperately trying to move equipment to their front. Our tactical precision assets delivered a perfect strike right on the core choke points of the bridge, forcing the occupation authorities to completely shut down all movement and declare the emergency ending. They cannot move fuel, they cannot move ammunition convoys, and they cannot rotate their exhausted troops. Every single vehicle that was supposed to supply the front line tonight is currently stuck in a massive burning gridlock on the administrative border of Crimea. By striking Tula, Reutov and Chongar in a single multi-front blitz, Ukraine proved that we possess the absolute technological sovereignty in the middle of this year to systematically dismantle the entire Russian empire from the inside out. But let me tell you one more secret. What happened tonight in Tula, Reutov and Chongar is just the opening argument. High-level sources inside Ukraine's defense ministry confirm that our unmanned systems forces are currently preparing the massive wave of deep strike operations, specifically designed in a total punishment for the assault on Kyiv. We have mapped out every single airfield, every single missile storage facility, and every single assembly plant inside mainland Russia. If they think they can hide behind their fake air defenses, they are completely wrong. The hunt is on, and the Kremlin is officially running out of places to hide. The security service of Ukraine struck on oil depot in the Yaroslav region of Russia. Another blow was struck into the Azov chemical plant in Novomoskovsk, Tula region. This enterprise is associated with production of explosive for the Russian army. Ukraine is implementing a plan of long-term sanctions in response to Russia's refusal to end the war, President Volodymyr Zelensky said.
The largest gas stations in Tatarstan have restricted fuel sales. The authorities explain this decision as a measure to combat artificial panic buying. However, it is clear that this is a direct result of the effective strikes by Ukraine's defense forces on the TNK and TIF-NK oil refineries in Nizhnekamsk. However, due to Ukraine's long-range sanctions, the fuel crisis is being felt not only in the regions, but also in the main cities of the aggressor country. At Tatneft gas stations in Moscow and St. Petersburg, no more than 20 liters of AI-92 and AI-95 gasoline and up to 40 liters of diesel fuel are sold per person.
The kids have played themselves into trouble. Moscow region, let me show you now. Here you go. Take a look at this. They still don't accept, believe it or not, they don't accept any credit or debit cards here at all. They only take physical cash. That is just how it is in this place, unfortunately.
As for the fuel situation in the territories of Ukraine temporarily occupied by Russia, their fuel sales have either been completely stopped or strictly limited. In the temporarily occupied Crimea, gasoline prices have risen sharply. At gas stations, it's already a quarter more expensive than in Moscow. Prices are even higher with resellers. On classified ad websites, gasoline was being offered at half again as much as at gas stations. Fuel is being sold via QR codes. On June 4th, the occupation authorities announced a complete halt to the free sale of gasoline for cash.
QR codes, let's put it this way, are a complicated issue because you just can't keep up. It keeps kicking you out. By the time you log back in, all the fuel is already gone.
The QR code doesn't really solve the problem, since there are insane lines and empty zero readings at the gas station, so to speak.
Among the latest strikes by Ukraine's defense forces was the hit on an oil facility in the Yaroslav region. We're talking about the temp plant of Rosreserve, which is located about 700 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Strategic oil reserves are stored at this facility. In addition, the defense forces struck the Azot plant in the Tula region. Military logistics in the territories of Ukraine temporarily occupied by Russia were also targeted.
But the Ukrainian drone program and the Ukrainian missile program have proven their effectiveness, and in recent months, Ukraine has been striking military and energy targets deep inside Russian territory. And in recent months, there has also been an effective campaign of medium-range strikes against the logistics of the Russian army, which is also yielding results. Accordingly, this lever, this element, has become key in the overall shift in the balance of power.
Systematic strikes on the oil sector in Russia's rear prevent the restoration of refining capacities. The Kremlin continues to lose money and resources. For example, attacks by Ukrainian drones on the Tuapse oil refinery and the adjacent Rosneft marine terminal have led to fuel shipments in this direction virtually coming to a halt.
During the course of last month, the port of Tuapse did not manage to ship out any crude oil supplies whatsoever. That is a major development, considering that roughly 20% of all Russian tanker oil was traditionally shipped from this location. Therefore, this total halt is highly significant. And we shouldn't forget that this is not only lost profit, which could have been used to finance, of course, the war, but also technological consequences for the entire industry.
Moscow has to increase imports of gasoline and diesel fuel while exporting crude oil. But even here, the risks have increased. Sanctioned tankers from Russia's shadow fleet are being detained by Kyiv's partners. The British military stopped such a vessel that was trying to pass through the English Channel.
I gave the order to our armed forces to intercept an oil tanker from the shadow fleet that was attempting to pass through the English Channel. This successful operation deals another blow to Russia and serves as a reminder to those who finance Putin's war in Ukraine that we will not let them escape responsibility. Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, on social network X.
The operation to detain the tanker with Mirtas lasted about 6 hours. Royal Marines, officers from the National Crime Agency, as well as the Air Force, took part in the operation. The vessel will remain under surveillance off the southern coast of England while the investigation continues. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha emphasized every intercepted vessel from the aggressor country's shadow fleet means less money for the Russian war machine. Nikita Skoblikov for Freedom TV channel.
Today, the world is celebrating International Donor Day, and dozens of cities of Ukraine visiting groups of doctors accept those who wish to donate blood. It is then used for the needs of both Ukrainian defenders and civilians affected by Russian aggression.
Donorship is fundamental. Under this motto, a nationwide campaign kicked off at the Odessa Veteran Hub dedicated to International Donor Day. City residents came here to donate blood for both military personnel and civilians who have suffered from the almost daily Russian shelling in Odessa and the region.
As for the number of donations, I'll tell you right now. I think this is already my 22nd time. I can give someone my blood, donate blood, and let it go to fight. Let it work, heal, grow, and do everything else for our country.
In Kyiv, at the Ivan Franko National Academic Theatre, the traditional donor campaign was also held, already the 4th time on this stage. About 270 people gathered here for the mobile blood donation.
People, first and foremost, it's simply a conscious Ukrainian, from 18 to 60 years old. There are a lot of women, the majority are women, it seems to me, because many men are at the front and are not here. But I know that many blood centers go out to the front line and accept blood from servicemen. In addition to protecting us, they also manage to save lives, ours and their comrades. That is very valuable.
The donated blood, and here they collected more than 100 liters, will go both to support wounded servicemen of the defense forces and to treat civilians in Ukraine who have suffered from Russian bombings.
The blood is collected in sterile hemocontainers and then transported to our center, where it is processed, that is, separated into red blood cells and plasma.
The large-scale war has had a significant impact. It has given people both external and internal motivation to donate blood, more often.
In Lviv, as well as in 4 other cities of Ukraine, the servicemen of the State Border Guard Service set a Ukrainian record for the largest amount of donor blood given at one time. Captain Nazar Tabachuk carried out combat missions in the Kharkiv and Sumy regions as well as in other frontline areas. He confirms that, having seen with his own eyes just how critically important donor blood is for wounded soldiers.
I encountered this firsthand. There were wounded, there were comrades, and much more. That's why I believe that right now, donating blood and being a donor are extremely important. First and foremost, I think every civilian should understand that if they are not taking part in combat or on the front lines, they should help as much as possible. Here, in civilian life.
Among the participants in the campaign is military doctor Elena Medinina. A defender of Mariupol, she went through it all. She endured Russian captivity, returned to the State Border Guard Service, and today continues to contribute to Ukraine's defense capability.
As a doctor, I can say that every drop of blood is someone's saved life, and I am very pleased that my comrades are joining such events. Blood is important. It is telling that today, at this donation event, some of my wounded are present, those whose lives were once saved by donated blood, and today they are giving their own blood to save others.
A total of 436 servicemen of the State Border Guard Service of Ukraine took part in the donor event. Thanks to those generous donors, the vital blood bank was successfully replenished with a total of 196 liters of blood, helping to save many lives.
All European Union member states have agreed to open the first cluster of negotiations on the accession of Ukraine and Moldova to the European Union, announced the presidents of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and the European Council, Antonio Costa. Hungary was no exception. In a few weeks, the parties managed to resolve an issue that former Hungarian Prime Minister Orban could not resolve in 10 years. Prime Minister Peter Magyar said.
The opening of the first negotiation cluster is a significant political and moral support for Ukrainians, stated Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Kyiv is doing everything possible to open all the clusters, the head of state emphasized.
I thank all our partners in the EU and each leader personally for this strong step for the sake of Europe. Ukraine is defending itself and in doing so, all of Europe. The idea that European peoples can live in unity, freedom and peace. As we have said, Ukraine is doing what is necessary and important, and the EU is also keeping its word. Volodymyr Zelensky, President of Ukraine, on Telegram.
On June 12th, the countries of the European Union agreed on a plan to begin negotiations on Ukraine and Moldova's accession to the EU. Both states must fulfill requirements across 6 clusters, which include dozens of sections. After the negotiations are completed, accession to the EU must be approved and ratified by all 27 member states. At the EU Intergovernmental Conference in Luxembourg on June 15th, the first fundamentals cluster will be opened for Kyiv and Chisinau. This cluster covers issues of the rule of law, the functioning of democratic institutions, the fight against corruption, fundamental rights, and economic criteria.
The European Union has taken an important step forward. This is a recognition of the determination, courage and hard work demonstrated by both countries in advancing reforms, even in the face of enormous challenges, and a signal that the EU's offer of peace, stability and opportunities is unmatched. By bringing our nations closer together, we strengthen peace, security and prosperity across our entire continent. The enlargement of the European Union serves our common interests. Antonio Costa, President of the European Council, on social network X.
For a long time, Hungary hindered Ukraine's progress on the path to European integration. Formally, negotiations on the accession of Kyiv and Chisinau to the EU began back in June 2024. But Viktor Orban repeatedly stated that he would not let Ukraine into the European Union. The new head of the Hungarian government agreed to open the first negotiation cluster for Ukraine. Kyiv and Budapest reached agreements on the educational, cultural, linguistic and political rights of ethnic Hungarians in Ukraine, explained Peter Magyar.
Ukraine has officially included the provisions of the Hungarian-Ukrainian bilateral agreement in its action plan on minorities prepared as part of the EU accession process. I am confident that the results achieved over these few weeks will make a significant contribution to the development of bilateral relations based on mutual respect and understanding.
It is too early to talk about any specific dates for Ukraine's accession to the EU while hostilities continue on the country's territory, according to member of the European Parliament Michael Gahler. However, despite Russia's full-scale war against Ukraine, Kyiv has demonstrated significant progress on the path toward European integration, the politician acknowledged.
For all of us who support Ukraine, and that is the overwhelming majority among EU member states in the European Parliament, this is an important moment. But there are no more obstacles now, thanks to the votes of Hungarian voters. These 2 years have not been wasted. I mean that, behind the scenes of the screening process, many issues have already been addressed, and some have been partially resolved. So we are not starting from scratch after spending 2 years, and now we can finally move forward.
Earlier, the EU's chief diplomat Kaja Kallas stated that all 6 negotiation clusters for Ukraine's accession to the European Union could be opened as early as this summer. European Commissioner for Enlargement Marta Kos also believes that this is possible. According to her, all negotiation clusters can be opened by the end of July. From his side, President Volodymyr Zelensky assured that Ukraine is fully prepared for this technically. Andriy Dmitrenko for the TV channel Freedom.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel Ukraine Today and stay with us. Take care and see you soon.